Well, welcome in, Tiger fans, to a Tuesday afternoon edition of the Babin on the Bayou show. I'm your host, as always, Justin Babin Jr. Thank you so much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. Again, it is Tuesday afternoon, March 31st, 2026, the last day of March. Going to be talking a little bit more LSU baseball, a little bit more about their series win over Kentucky over the weekend. Wanted to talk and dive a little bit more into that before the Tigers play Southern tonight in the box at 6:30 for their midweek game before a tough stretch. You go to Knoxville this weekend, and then you go to Oxford next weekend. So back-to-back road series in the SEC. Gonna be a quicker show today. The show today is not going to be as long. I will actually be live in the box tonight in the press box tonight. Actually, I'm really excited for the opportunity that I get, courtesy of my friends David Billiard and Zach Nunez over at Go Deep Dive, getting the chance to be back up in the press box. I'm so thrilled about that. Got a few things to handle, a few things to get under control before that, but I'm going to be live in the box tonight. So not going to be as long a show, but I did want to touch on a few things before we get into it. Of course, we're daily sponsored by our friends over at Chioed Heating and Cooling. Remember that number, 225-46-BAYOU, 225-46-BAYOU, BAYOU. You call the wonderful team over at Chioed Heating and Cooling today at that number. Tell them you heard about them from the Babin on the Bayou show, and you will be receiving free AC system cleaning checks for every AC system in your home, courtesy of our wonderful friends over at Chioed Heating and Cooling, who we greatly love and appreciate for being the daily title sponsors of the Babin on the Bayou show. Okay, again, we're just going to run through a few things in relation to LSU baseball. I'm going to talk LSU football at some point this week, but today's just got a not as long a show today, so I plan to talk about football and stuff tomorrow. But I wanted to add on to a few things that I talked about yesterday, because yesterday we obviously had some technical difficulties, so I apologize about that. It happens. What's up, Paulie J? What's up, my friend? Hope you were doing well. Thank you for tuning into the show. Like I said yesterday, man, just the fight that you saw from this team against Kentucky was impressive. And it was something you really wanted to see and needed to see out of this baseball club. And you absolutely saw it, because 3-6 was staring you right in the face. It was staring you right in the face after you lose the game, opening game on Friday, after you go down 7-0 after the top of the third on Sunday in game 3. Like, that's kind of what it was. But you bounce back, and your offense bounces back in a big way. And really, when you look at it, like the offensive output, you had 17 runs on 16 hits Sunday. You absolutely raked. It was very similar to the feelings you felt early in the season when this team was playing, in Jacksonville in the Jacks Classic, and they were absolutely blistering the baseball in the first 8 games of the season. And they went through a lot of inconsistency. They went through a ton of inconsistency, and I'm not saying they're over that yet, because it's one weekend, but they had a very good offensive weekend. And the bottom line is, in two out of the 3 weekends, sorry folks, in 2 out of the 3 weekends LSU has played SEC baseball so far, they've scored 28 plus runs. They've put up 28 plus runs in 2 of their 3 weekends. That's a really good clip. I mean, you had 32 hits this weekend against Kentucky. You had 13 extra base hits compared to only 4 extra base hits for UK. So it's like, when you look at it, I really wanted to talk about this. Didn't get the chance to talk about it yesterday. I know, Paul, you talked about it on Walk It Off Talk last night. David from Go Deep Dive him and Zach Nunez do a great job. They kind of talked about it. The post-game presser for Jay Johnson Sunday after the comeback win, 17-10 comeback win, LSU win the series over Kentucky. A lot of things that Jay Johnson said that stood out that you can point out. We'll kind of go through it. Talked about how, this team, they couldn't have responded in a better way. They could not have responded in a better way when you look at it. And this team at points throughout the season, I mean, Jay Johnson termed it in his words as like they've been tested, their manhood has been tested at points throughout this season, and they haven't, responded well to the call, and they've lost games and they've gone through inconsistencies and really struggles, but they could not have responded better. You go down 7-0 after the top of the third. I mean, you can't really throw strikes at all in the first 3 innings of that game. And then, man, you just have guys step up constantly, time and time again, and just really just the response from this team, not giving up, not giving in. And look, you went 2-4 the first 2 weekends of SEC play, sure, and you have 5 SEC losses on the season now, but 3 of those 5 losses were by 2 runs or less. So it's not like this team is getting blown out. It's not like this team has gotten dominated in any of these SEC games that they've lost. That's not what's been happening. Like I said, most of a majority of the SEC games they've lost by 1 or 2 runs. And they really just offensively had a great, great weekend Saturday and Sunday in those games. I'll get to a few more things that I wanted to touch on. Just great response from what you saw. And Jay said that was his team out there. That was their program. That was LSU Jay Johnson brand of baseball on Saturday, and specifically talking about what the Tigers did on Sunday in game 3 of the series. Like, that was a Jay Johnson brand of baseball. And Jay said a few quotes that I pulled. I listened to, you can find the interviews anywhere. John Eads does a great job, and all of these guys do a great job. A quote that I found that Jay said is he's happy to win or lose with that amount of fight and compete that the team showed. I mean, they showed fight and competitiveness and grit, and you have to do that because think about it. Last year, one of my things about the 2025 team that will always stick with me, one of the things that Jay said that will always stick with me about that team from last year that won the 8th national title in this LSU baseball program history, is that Jay said that was the most mentally tough team that he has ever coached in 2025, the team that won the Natty last year. Mental toughness, like the mental approach to face challenges throughout the season, and the 2025 team definitely faced challenges. I mean, they had a bad series on the road, a very bad series on the road at Auburn. They had a bad series on the road against Texas A&M in College Station. Like, they had, bumps and bruises, and that's every baseball season. Like, that is every single baseball season. And the first 2 weeks of SEC play didn't go how LSU fans wanted or how the team wanted. But what you saw on Sunday, man, was just another level in showing these guys absolutely care. They care a lot. These guys do not question how much this team cares. They absolutely do. The competitiveness and the fight that they were able to show and display out there on Sunday, going back, outscoring, you go down 7-0 into the bottom of the going into the bottom of the third inning, you're down 7-0, and then you outscored Kentucky 17-3 for the rest of the game. Like, the fight, the competitiveness. 2 instances that Jay pointed out that I wanted to highlight as well. Like, Chris Stanfield at one point in the game on Sunday fouls a ball right off his foot, and Jay and the trainer Isaac Trujillo go out there and they're like, "Hey, are you good?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm good, coach. I'm going to come through here." And the next pitch, he gets a base hit and drives in a couple runs. Like, that's Chris Stanfield. Like, I love Chris Stanfield. Jay obviously loved Chris Stanfield. I mean, how could you not? Just such a team player, just such a team guy, and just consistent, man. Like, he's just consistent. He's a 4-year starter now in the SEC. Like, just having him back, plays a great left field. He went 4 for 5 on Sunday, had a phenomenal game from Stanley on Sunday. But, like, that's one instance. Zach Cowan himself, after throwing over 50 pitches Saturday night, Sunday, about the 7th or 8th inning, says, "Coach, I am going down to the bullpen to warm up and start, throwing a little bit in case you need me in the ninth." Just the day after that, he threw over 50 pitches, and Jay wasn't planning to use him on Sunday, but he was like, "No, coach, I am going down there to the bullpen. I am taking myself down there. And if you need me, I will be ready. Like that is those two cases, the case with Stanny and the case with Cowan. Like those are two guys who want it, man. They want it. And this team, man, you gotta see more, right? This is one really good weekend, and we can get into the pitching a little bit later because the pitching did struggle a little bit this weekend. They hit 5 Kentucky batters and they walked 20 as a pitching staff. Those aren't good numbers. Those are definitely not good numbers, and that's 2 out of 3 weekends as a pitching staff where you've issued 25 plus free passes to an opposing team in the SEC. That's not good. But like the talent, the character, the competitiveness, and the absolute fight and the will to win that this team showed this weekend when 3-6 was staring you right in the face on multiple occasions. Just great. A few things I want to point out. Zach Cowan, man, what can you say about Zach Cowan? I've said it. He's the best. He's been, to me, the best pitcher on this LSU staff through 9 games in the SEC now. I mean, he's thrown 8 1/3 scoreless innings in conference play right now. He's only given up 2 hits in 8 1/3 scoreless innings. I mean, Zach Cowan is back. And when Jay Johnson says that Zach Cowan was a top 5 reason that LSU walked away with the Natty in 2025, like, you see all the faith, all the trust in the world that Jay Johnson has in Zach Cowan. And I talked about it in the non-conference. I was not happy with how Zach Cowan was performing in the first 4 weeks of the season. I really, really wasn't. It was shocking to me because he was one of your best relievers out of the bullpen last year. But ever since, he's just massively flipped a switch, man, in these past 3 weekends. And he's been absolutely dynamite out of the bullpen. I think he's been your best pitcher. I think he's been your best pitcher through 3 weekends, your most consistent pitcher with what Zach Cowan has been able to do. We'll get to a little bit of the comments here. Alex, Tiger Joker, thank you all. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, all of you, for tuning in. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. One other thing, Seth Dardar, of course, Seth Dardar yesterday was named the SEC Co-Offensive Player of the Week. I mean, just like I said, Seth Dardar was the MVP of the Kentucky series for me. Just absolutely dynamite. He went 6 for 10, so he batted 600 in the series with 4 doubles, a home run. He also drew 4 walks. He had 5 RBIs. You look at what Dardar did. He had 3 doubles in game 1 on Friday. He had another double along with a single and a 3-run bomb on Sunday. And then even on Saturday, man, like on Saturday, maybe Saturday wasn't the game at the plate that stands out to you for Dardar. But even on Saturday, I mean, Dardar drew 3 walks in game 2 on Saturday. So even when he didn't hit, the one game he didn't really hit on Saturday, he was still able to get on base 3 times. And like throughout the season, like even when Dardar has struggled at times, he's been able to get on base. He's drawn a lot of walks for this LSU squad this season. And I love Seth Dardar. Like I've said it, Louisiana guy coming over from Kansas State for his final year of college baseball, playing at the university he's always wanted to play at, and just breakout weekend, MVP type weekend for Seth Dardar, SEC Co-Offensive Player of the Week. I could not be happier for him. Like I really, really couldn't. He's one of my favorite guys on the team. Just his story, and just a Louisiana kid, and just one of those guys that I personally have kind of attached to a little bit because I just love his story, and I was really happy. And I think, another thing that we talked about a lot yesterday is just the guys that you've had step up. I mean, we talked about Jake Brown having a Golden Spikes Award finalist season. Jake Brown's been awesome this year. You know what you have with Derek Curiel. I mean, Derek Curiel was great on Sunday too. He had 3 hits, 3 opposite field hits, and one of those was a solo bomb. Like, you know what you have in Curiel. Milam is the best shortstop and best defensive shortstop in the country. Like, Omar Cerna is a guy I've really talked about a lot lately as a guy who I've been really impressed with what he's been able to do as a freshman and the way he's been able to contribute. But again, I'll say this again, like the guys I pointed out, of course, Cowan on the mound was the MVP of, like pitching this weekend. What Cowan has been able to do, just been awesome. But at the plate, like Seth Dardar, as I said before, MVP type weekend. I think he's like, write it in Sharpie, write it in pen. Like Seth Dardar should be your everyday second baseman for the time being, for an extended period of time, unless he goes through a slump or anything like that. But Seth Dardar should be your everyday second baseman. John Pearson should be your everyday third baseman. What Pearson has been able to do, just really, really competitive at bat after competitive AB for John Pearson, really for this team. That's another thing that Jay Johnson talked about, is the competitive at bats that this team has had, and I'll get into those numbers a little bit later, because I think you went back to a Jay Johnson brand of baseball on Saturday and Sunday compared to on Friday, and I'll get into those numbers a little bit later. But like John Pearson's been great lately with what he's been able to do. You knew you were going to have Curio, Brown, and Staney in the outfield. Like, you knew that. I'll also shout out Mason Braun, man. Like, Mason Braun coming in and getting a 2 RBI double on Saturday to go along with a 3-run bomb of his own. Like, Mason Braun stepped up in a big, big way for this team, especially in Game 2 on Saturday. Like, what he's able to do, just – you have to have other guys step up. We've been talking about that. We've been talking about there's only been maybe 2 or 3 guys in this lineup who have been consistent, and it's really been a struggle 1 through 9. And Dardar, Pearson, Braun, Staney, like all of those. Well, Staney's a veteran. You kind of already know where you're getting with Staney, but like Dardar, Pearson, Braun, like all 3 of those guys stepped up in a massive way for this team at the plate. And you really, really needed it. Let's see here. So I wanted to point that out. You've now, like I said, you've now scored 28 plus runs in 2 of your 3 SEC series so far. 13 extra base hits, 32 total hits this weekend against Kentucky. We can get into the negative. And I'm going to turn it back around to the positive towards the end of the show. Like I said, I don't think we're going long. Just wanted to kind of talk about a few things. The negative is the pitching staff struggled a little bit this weekend. Now, that doesn't count Saturday when William Schmidt and Zach Cowan pitched a shutout and were absolutely brilliant. But on Friday and on Sunday, like, Kaysen Evans issued 8 free passes in the first 3 innings. I'll talk about Kaysen a little bit later. Gavin Guidry, like, only able to pitch 1 1/3 innings. He gave up 4 free passes, and Guidry really struggled. Like, you issued 20 walks this weekend to Kentucky's offense, and you also hit 5 batters. So you issued 25 free passes as a pitching staff this weekend. And again, that's kind of 2 out of 3 weekends with Kentucky now, and then opening weekend in Nashville against Vandy, where that was a real issue. You really, really struggled with that. That was a real issue. But a few things I wanted to point out about that. I do believe in this pitching staff, because before that, I would say from the Grambling game you had, the Oklahoma series, and then the game you had against Louisiana Tech. In those 5 games, your pitching staff pitched really well, and they pitched really well on Saturday with Schmidt and Cowan. Now, Friday and Sunday, you can't issue that many free passes. Like, that's an issue, especially to a team like Kentucky, who once they get leadoff runners on base, or runners on base, period, likes to create a lot of havoc. Obviously, that's an issue, but you have that, and I'll talk about 2 guys here, or I'll talk about multiple guys. We already talked about Cowan. I did want to credit Grant Fontenot for Sunday getting the final 6 outs in the final 2 innings of that game. I've really been impressed with Grant Fontenot. Like, I really, really liked what I see out of him. Like, high 90s stuff, and like, he's putting it together. He's put it together over the last couple weeks and has pitched really well for the team. Devin Sheeran also pitched, in the 6th, a clean 6th and a clean 7th inning. Or Lockenmeyer came in and got the final out of the 7th inning on Sunday. But I mean, Sheeran did give up some runs in the 5th, but Sheeran, like he's a guy I trust at this point. I like what you have. I like his fire. I like his energy. But let's talk about Case and Evans and Gavin Guidry. Case and Evans, I've always defended him, and I will continue to defend him as a Friday night guy. The issue is he doesn't throw enough strikes. He doesn't throw enough strikes. That's the issue. He's not getting hit hard off of. I like last time I checked, he's given up like 26 hits this season, and only like 4 of those have been for extra bases. So it's like when he does get hit off of, it's not hard contact. And like Kaysen's issue is not that opposing offenses are ever really raking off of him. That's not the issue with Kaysen Evans. The issue is free passes, issuing 6 free passes in Nashville against Vandy, issuing 8 free passes, Friday night not against OU. He was phenomenal against OU, like maybe the best outing of his college career against OU. But then he goes and issues 8 free passes in the first 3 innings of that game against Kentucky on Friday night. Like, I believe in Kaysen Evans, and he's going to be your Friday night guy, and he should be your Friday night guy, especially for as long as you're going to have Cooper Moore out. Like, as long as you're going to have him out, you don't want to move Kaysen and Schmidt out of their roles, especially right now. And even if Moore was not injured, I would still say keep Kaysen Evans where he is, because I do believe in him, but he does have to throw more strikes. I would give him credit for what he did in the 4th, 5th, and 6th, though, because that really, really helped you. That really, really helped your bullpen, Kaysen Evans. Even though he struggled in the first 3, being able to pitch 6 innings on Friday helped you, because you threw 8 guys in the game on Sunday. In just a wild game, you threw 8 pitchers, and you probably, like, if Kaysen doesn't get through 6 innings on Friday, I know the first 3 weren't pretty, but, like, getting through 6 innings, like, give him credit for that. Like, I think he retired the final 12 batters he faced, or there was 1 runner in that final 12 that got on base, but that runner was erased, on a ground ball double play. But, like, give Kaysen credit for that. Gavin Guidry. Look, I love Gavin Guidry. I love him. I think he's one of your best bullpen arms. I love the fire and the energy that he brings out of the bullpen. I know Zach talked about this the other day. Paul talked about this the other day. Man, I've never seen Guidry and I'm saying this and with all love and all respect for Gavin Guidry and what he has done for this team. I love Gavin Guidry, and I think he's great in a late bullpen role and a closer role. I've never seen Gavin Guidry, however, I've never seen him as a starter. I don't see him as a starter. Just the energy that he brings out of the bullpen late in games, in clutch situations, what he's able to do. Like, just as a starter for me, Gavin's a bullpen arm for me. He's my closer. He's my closer. And he struggled against Kentucky flat out on Sunday. I don't see any reason why Zach Cowan is not your Sunday starter against Tennessee and Knoxville. Like, I don't see any reason. Zach Cowan, like, to me, is the best option there behind Evans and Schmidt. Cowan should be at 3 for as long as Cooper Moore is out, just because he's been so dynamite through the past 3 weekends, the first 3 weekends of SEC play. And just, he threw 110 innings. Like, don't forget, at Wofford in 2024, he was their ace, and he threw 110 innings. Don't forget about that 5+ inning start, that amazing start he had against Arkansas in Omaha, like, to basically in that game eventually to get you win that game and you get to the CWS finals to play Coastal Carolina. Like, don't forget about Zach Cowan's track record as a starter. Like, I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be the starter on Sunday. And I do love Gavin Guidry. I love him in a bullpen role. I love him as the closer, as the guy who brings you a ton of fire, a ton of passion, and a ton of energy late in games in clutch situations. To kind of cap things off here, I will say, man, just again, the fight, the passion, the energy, and the competitiveness that this team brought over the weekend, and especially on Sunday. You have that game on Friday where you struggled against Jackson Jelkin, who is a stud. Like, sometimes that happens. You only drew 2 walks on Sunday. You only drew 2 walks on Sunday with that against Jackson Jelkin. Saturday, you had 9 hits and you drew 9 walks as an offense. Sunday, you had 16 hits and you drew 11 walks. So I think when we talk about getting back to Jay Johnson baseball, it's not just being able to rake. It's not just being able to hit. I think back to the Jacksonville series. Who was that? It was either the Indiana or Notre Dame coach. It was one of those coaches. It's slipping my mind. But one of those coaches that you played in that series, I was either Indiana's coach or Notre Dame's coach, talked about the plate discipline that LSU's offense showed in the first 8 games of the season and how elite it was. So like they mentioned it in the Jacksonville series, and that was true. You get away from that, or you've gotten away from that in a little bit of time. This past month, you've been a little bit inconsistent. You've been inconsistent, frankly, offensively, but you got back to that on Saturday and Sunday. Again, you drew 9 walks on Saturday. You drew 11 walks on Sunday. Like, getting back to not only being aggressive, not only being able to hit, but also being patient and waiting for the pitch. Like, being able to do that, that's Jay Johnson's brand of baseball. And they got back to that. I hope that continues. I hope that continues tonight. Tonight you play Southern at 6:30 in the box in a midweek game. I will be live. I will be there in the press box. I'm very, very excited for it. A few numbers on Southern. I'm not gonna get much into it, but Southern is 10-16 on the season. They had their own comeback win on Sunday. They were down 7-2 to Prairie View on Sunday before they scored 7 runs in the final 2 innings to win that game and win that series for Southern. A few things, got some of these numbers earlier. Hunt Palmer did a great job breaking down Southern a little bit this morning, talking about their walks number. They've walked 185 batters, which is 50 more walks than LSU has issued this season, and they've also hit 48 batters compared to LSU hitting 37. So issued a lot of free passes, a lot of walks. I mean, 185 walks. You think LSU's issued a lot of walks. Well, Southern's issued 50 more than LSU has. So be patient at the plate, wait for your pitch. And I hope tonight LSU just comes out and builds on the momentum that they had on Saturday and Sunday. Again, a great series against Kentucky, great competitiveness, great fight. And just what this team was able to do. And just, again, this team, you saw it this weekend. You saw the passion, the energy, the competitive spirit, competitive AB after competitive AB. And it really gives you hope going into a stretch now where you play 3 of your next 4 SEC conference weekend series are on the road. I will say for Tennessee, who you play in Knoxville this weekend, and for Ole Miss, who you play in Oxford the weekend after that. Both of those teams are coming off. Vanderbilt swept Tennessee this weekend. Mississippi State swept Ole Miss. So both Tennessee and Ole Miss are 3-6 currently in the Southeastern Conference through 9 games on the season. I'll say this. Look, it's going to be difficult. Like, this next 4-week stretch at Tennessee, at Ole Miss, home against A&M, at Mississippi State, it's going to be a really tough stretch. Tennessee and Ole Miss are not playing their best ball, but still, it's still Knoxville. It's still Oxford. You were not playing your best ball coming into this weekend against Kentucky, and you managed to beat a top 20 team at home. So it was really crucial that you won this series against Kentucky, able to get it done. The fight, the competitiveness, the everything that LSU showed, it was awesome. And the guys, you just needed some other guys in this lineup to step up. Dardar, Pearson, Braun, guys like that did that and did that in a big way. And it was a very, very successful weekend for the Tigers. That's pretty much all I have for the show today. We'll get into a few of the comments. I will say this. I'm going to talk about LSU football at some point this week. I plan to do it on the show tomorrow. Lane Kiffin met with the media today after LSU's fourth spring practice so far. So I plan to talk a little bit of football later in the week, probably tomorrow, but got to get out of here and, handle a few things and then get over to the box, which I'm really excited about tonight. But let's get into a few of these comments. Let's see. Paul, Alex, Tiger Joker, Daniel Lockenmeyer, underappreciated outing Sunday. Yeah, I mean, Lockenmeyer pitched. Didn't he pitch twice this weekend? And he hasn't pitched a lot this season, but he was able to get it out in the seventh inning on Sunday, and then I think he got 1 to 2 outs on Friday for you in game one. So good from Lockenmeyer. Paul, that's right. It was Notre Dame. I knew it was either Notre Dame or Indiana, but still, the point stands. Like, that coach was like, the plate discipline of this team is elite. And I think you saw that come back this weekend. Gavin pitched with intensity and fire. That's hard to do as a starter because you have to save energy. Yeah, man, I love Gavin. Like, no disrespect to Gavin whatsoever. He's better as a reliever. He's better as a closer than he is as a starter. And like I said, I think you got to have Cowan in that role on Sunday for as long as Cooper Moore is out. With how Cowan has been able to pitch over the last 3 weekends, that's what I would do. Just thank you guys. Thank you guys. I think that's all we have. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. I do greatly, greatly appreciate it. Excited to be in the box tonight. Excited for this next 4 weeks of, three of your 4 SEC series being on the road for the next 4 weeks is difficult, and you're going to be challenged. And to be honest, you'll probably drop a road series. Because that tends to happen. But really good sign and really good competitiveness from the Tigers. You said Joker said Ricken or Paz tonight. I could definitely see that. I could definitely see Ricken or Paz tonight. One of the freshmen, getting those guys out there. I know Southern likes to steal a lot of bases. I think they have 75 stolen bases so far on the season as a team. So pay attention to that. Pickoff moves have been an issue for this team at points during the season. But again, excited for the game tonight, excited for the next 4 weekends. I thank you folks so much for tuning into the show. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to get out of here. But remember, as always, God bless. Go Tigers. Have a great one. I thank you folks so much for tuning into the show. Peace out from Babin on the Bayou, baby. Have a good one, folks.